Welcome to the Joy Quota podcast. I'm Dylan Fole.
And I'm Gavin Malcolm.
Our guest tonight is Maddie Berky.
She is one of our new best friends. We actually met because I'm redoing her kitchen with our neighbor, and she is such a delight. We talk about everything from how our bodies affect our emotions, some even deeper stuff, and talking about getting peed on by a squirrel. So if you like anything, it's in this. Please enjoy.
Yeah, this is a deep one. Here we go.
Do people actually buy furniture?
Yeah. Furniture's fucking expensive, too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah, furniture's real expensive. Like, when I had to buy my couch, I was like, dude, what?
But your
Or
couch
like
is
fucking
very
euros. My couch is
comfortable.
dope. So the first couch I actually had was this teeny ass. It was a white love seat.
Like one
Worst-
of the bags?
No, it was just like a small couch. Like
Oh,
it was
okay.
like a mini couch.
Like smaller than that
Oh
couch?
yeah, like 2 cushions.
Okay.
2 small cushions, and it was white, which was like wrong decision number 1. But yeah, it was just the worst because I like got it when I was like a single woman in 21, and I was like, whatever, I don't need a big couch. And then I was like, if there was not just me, I'd be like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
My guy I was dating
Invite
at the time, my
anyone over?
ex-boyfriend, like passed out on the couch one night. Actually, it was like he was at a concert with his 2 friends, and they all I think maybe slept in my room, and then his 2 tall, normal-sized friends. I walk out, and one is like his head is off the edge of the couch, and his feet are off the other edge. The other, I had a chair and a little ottoman, and his butt had just fallen to the floor, and his feet were on the ottoman. I was just like,
Full Nike swoosh.
I need to get new furniture.
I've definitely been in both of those situations before. But one of our friends like got a new couch and offered me their old one. And he's like, oh, I'll give you a deal, $500. I'm like, dude, we bought that one for $50 from my friend, and it's
Yeah.
basically brand new. I don't need new furniture. I think we're good.
fair.
But thank you.
Who offered us a couch for $500?
It doesn't matter.
That's hilarious. I just can't picture any of our friends like having money buying a couch and then selling like a couch that's worth $500 to
Well,
use.
no, that's a good deal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing is like, which one of our friends
Who
is
is-
grown up to have
Yeah,
real
who
couches?
is grown up?
Yeah, Craigslist couches. Our other buddy has a couch that's like the size of our living room. Like, it's very interesting because it's like a bunch of ottomans you push together.
Oh, okay.
And it makes like a quadruple.
Oh,
But you can
that's
sleep
kind
like
of vibe.
3.
That's like a
You can
little
sleep
much
like
for me.
3 people
Yeah,
on that.
that's
easily,
a lot.
I
See-
would think.
I think you need like a basement for that, or you need to be a single man.
I don't know. It seems nice because like family time,
I
we
guess that's true. Or
will go over there. Like me
kiddos.
and Dylan and Allie
Okay.
and them and their 2 kids
Yeah,
are
that's
all
ideal.
very
Sick.
comfortably
Yeah.
on the couch with
Easily
like
6 people.
you're
7
like
people, yeah.
can't reach the person next to you.
I take it back. That's ideal.
Yeah. But they don't like actually connect. So every time I've ever slept on that couch, I fall through the cracks because I'm a squirmer. And then I just like slowly push all of the pieces of
Farther.
the Tetris couch away from each other, and I fall into the crack, or like a phone falls into the crack,
Yeah.
and you have to disassemble the whole thing
Okay, where's the weirdest place you've ever slept?
in a window.
Wow. I feel like I don't have a funny answer for this. Especially when 2 people are. I like one thing that my brain does if anyone asks me anything like, what's the coolest, most interesting? And I'm like, I have nothing. I've done nothing cool. And my brain immediately, even like I've done so many embarrassing things. And if someone's like, what is the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to you? I'm like, nothing. Nothing embarrassing has ever happened because my brain is trying to play. To think about it though. One of the cooler places I've slept is in like a yurt that was like, this guy, he was whatever, but like it was just the coolest yurt ever. It was like there were like these like embroidered pillows all around, and like it smelled like Naga Champa incense, and he had like a custom made like
Can you spell
that? NAGA space CHAMPA.
Wow. I thought for sure.
Boom.
Yeah.
It's also the incense I light,
Oh, okay.
so that's fair. But yeah, and then like a custom made like cast iron stove from Scotland, and it was the fucking coolest, and also coolest pee that's ever happened to me, because I was like, I gotta, he was like,
Yeah.
if you have to pee at night, like you have to wake me up, and I was like, no, I'm okay. I'll just be outside. And he was like, no, I literally was taking a piss one time and like I looked up and there was a bear. And I was like, okay. So I like had to pee, and he literally came out with like a semi-automatic and his pistol, and it took me like 48 minutes to pee because I was so nervous.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I was like, this is a lot of pressure. Longest pee ever.
That is hilarious. I feel like I would not be able to resist the urge to fire off a round just to
Right,
like,
as soon as you start, you wait 48 minutes.
Amazing.
And as soon as you start, pop.
When was the last time you did desk pop? Yeah, I for sure would have.
Yeah, that's actually kind of amazing.
I'm incapable of not making the joke in that situation.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's awesome. That's pretty sweet. Where's the weirdest place you've ever slept, Owen?
I asked the question and I didn't have a funny answer. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, honestly. I was trying to think. And
What's the coolest place you've ever slept?
Yeah, what's just an interesting place?
Yeah, a curious
Maybe
place.
Maybe an interesting, not the most interesting.
Yeah, that's good. That's a way to take off the pressure.
Well, a lot of times going down to Mexico will like... I mean, it's happened several times. We'll go party in Ensenada or whatever, and then I'll black out, and then Alex is somewhat responsible enough that he can still drive, and so we'll drive like way up into the mountains at like 4 a.m, and I'll like sleep on the top of his van on the top of a mountain.
Like romantic. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just me and him. We have some romantic.
Or like just being like, oh, I wake up and the sky is.
I don't think it has to be like
That's
like an intimate thing.
Yeah, it's like oh, what a romantic.
Well, you can see that.
notion.
Yeah, it's on top of the mountain. You see the ocean. There's like abandoned buildings.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And,
jeez.
Yeah,
I do miss like
cool
waking
place,
up in nature. Like I haven't camped in a long time, but your experience, like you woke up and I was like, oh my god, those are the birds. Although we were in this like double sleeping bag, and the zipper was on his side, and I was like, I've never been so hot in my life, and I couldn't escape, and I didn't want to disturb him because I didn't want to be a disturbance at that point in this relationship, and so I just was like,
I can't believe you had suffered through that.
I know, and then I just read his like the man version of like a grocery store romance novel that was like a war novel for like 45 minutes until he made enough noise that I could be like, oh my god, are you awake? Have fun. Can you unzip the sleeping bag for the love of God?
I've lost 10 pounds of water weight this morning alone.
Just like put my arms out. It was like,
I am ruthless in those situations. Like, I will wake anyone up if I am uncomfortable. Like, I will do whatever it takes.
That's fair.
Unless, as it turns out, I've had too much to drink. Because you guys both talked about cool places. I'll go to the most weird or embarrassing place I've ever slept. I fell asleep through a window one time.
Oh my god! Wait, was it open when you fell asleep, or did you fall asleep and it broke?
So we were at this camp out in California, and they were having like a staff party, and we were all 18, and like it's the last week for them, but it's our only week.
Okay.
And they had like this cool little spot where like all the counselors and like employees would all hang out, and we were all working there that week. And so we go hang out with them, and we're like hanging out in our room, just like whatever. And we had bought a bunch of those juice barrels. Do you remember those as kids? They're like plastic juice barrels. I don't know what they're called, but they were like these weird like fake Kool-Aid things that came in a little plastic barrel.
Thank you.
And we had bought a case of those because we saw them at this random dollar mart.
And they're like colors, not
yeah,
flavors.
right.
Like
They're very
purple.
weird. Yeah, and you immediately are like, nostalgia. This is going to be the best. And then we ripped open just one and went to chug it and couldn't make it through it. Like they were so bad. And I was like, first of all, I was so disheartened. Like, like that's my childhood. I thought I had better taste. And then as we're sitting there like, well, I wonder what we do with this 24-pack, this mega stoned pro BMX rider walks in, or is like walking around on the porch, and our door was open because it was super hot. And he sees the barrels, and he's like, what? Are those the juice barrels from my childhood? And we're like, yeah, dude, they're incredible. And he's like, sight unseen, I'll trade you this 1.75 of Captain Morgan for those. And we were like, yup.
100%.
And like, we had never really ever drank before, like maybe once or twice.
This was a success.
But like anytime we did, it was always rum and Cokes. And so we had a bunch of Coke, and we are just going like 50% rum, 50% Coke. And between three of us, we crush this thing in like an hour.
Oh.
And because we just don't know better. And then we go to the party to go drink with like all of the staff.
No.
And bits and pieces, like we've all combined stories to get like a hangover story. And at one point, our buddy Andrew was like walking around with his ice cream cone, and our other friend JT was eating pizza, and Andrew just shoved his ice cream into JT's pizza and just said, "I'm here to fuck shit up." It just smashed his like pizza. And then at one point I tried to roll down, and this is only important to like BMX riders, but there's a massive hill at this camp, like a really massive hill that people are like sketched out to even like ride their bikes down, and I tried to roll down it, like just like how you would roll down like a grass hill. And then finally everyone shepherds, like everyone immediately is like, oh, these kids are out of control, we need to get them to their room. And they shepherd us back to our room. And I guess I was getting impatient while they were fumbling with the lock, and the window was open but the screen wasn't, so I just took a running start and just like tried to jump through the window. It didn't make it, and I just woke up like my hips across the windowsill and like touching my toes, essentially just with like a wall in between my hands and toes. Just woke up like that. JT had broken his wrist the day before and like slept on it like chicken wing and made it way worse, and like it was pretty hilarious.
Jeez.
So you guys arguably make better choices when it comes to bedtime.
That was slightly like later in my adult life, but
Yeah. Well, what were you like as a kid?
so actually, well, I used to like the other thing I was thinking of is I used to always fall off my bed. So I had like bed rails as a kid.
Was it a bunk bed or was it just like...
No, it was like a normal bed, but I would so violently thrash around that I would always throw myself off the bed. I used to kick too. I was like the worst to ever sleep with. I was the worst to sleep with as a kid. I would like either kick, or when I stopped kicking, I would just move towards a source of heat, and I would just move closer and closer if you moved away. So I'd just push everyone else off the bed. But when I was a kid, I went to camp and I slept on the top bunk. And one morning I woke up and on the floor, and I literally think I just knocked myself out. Like I don't remember falling off the bed.
Whoa.
I didn't wake up until the morning.
That's epic. That is so wild. Because I'm picturing camp, and it's like a camp floor in a cabin or whatever.
Oh yeah, it was like a tent. It was like a plywood floor that I just fell right onto, and debatably just knocked myself out for the rest of the night.
That's amazing. I bet that was the best sleep ever, though.
Right? Yeah, I was like, why am I here? I feel so refreshed.
Yeah. Man, I feel like just so ready to take on the day.
I really got into my deep REM cycles.
Because I remember I had a bunk bed. I didn't have friends or anyone else sleeping in my room. I just always wanted a bunk bed.
And that surprises me 0%.
And so I had a bed rail until I was like...
Wait, which part? That he didn't have friends?
Oh,
or?
no. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my God. I'm so not surprised that you didn't have friends. No, but you were just like, guys, I want a bunk bed. Guys, I want a bunk bed, because it seems like the most fun.
Yeah, well, and I liked the idea of like a perch, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And I would definitely always sleep on the top bunk. And I had a bed rail for a little bit. And then one day I just like took it off so I could jump off of it easily.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah, I was like, I can't handle this anymore. I need to be able to frolic.
Can't be contained by my bed.
Yeah. Did you and Taylor ever have a bunk bed?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we would have, like, especially around Christmas, we would have like sleepover nights with each. I mean, my brother, like, he would be in his room, or instead of sleeping in his room, he would sleep in my room, because my room had the bunk bed. So
that's pretty adorable and fun.
Yeah, and then we were in our footy pajamas, and then we'd wake our parents up at like 4 a.m. to go open presents, which I had forgotten about until like recently watching home movies, where you see us, like they would film us on their VHS camcorder, opening presents, and it's pitch black outside. It's like
It is nighttime still.
It was nighttime. Well, we never did. I don't know. They could have just done like the one gift on Christmas Eve and then wait, but we couldn't wait. It had to have been 5 in the morning. We were up, like running around like
That's
crazy.
hilarious. Yeah. Well, and I remember we watched some of the like home footage. What, a year and a half ago when we were like going through some of that stuff, and like there were some really wonderful pieces of like them like jumping down the stairs and his mom just being like, well, if you hurt yourself, let me know, but also don't care. like not in like a mean way, just
No, I feel
like
like there has to be like a level of separation if you have boys to be like, well,
yeah,
let me know, but don't.
she's like, only let me know if you're actually hurt. And also, please don't break my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like let them like, because wasn't it you put like a mattress or something at the bottom of the stairs?
Yeah,
and then
we
saw
would.
how high up the stairs you could jump.
Oh,
Exactly.
That's like a great game.
But
Yeah.
there's like an end table right at the bottom.
Oh, I
of the
don't doubt
stairs.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're durable.
Yeah, I
We
feel
were
like that's
durable
what
back
makes
then.
you durable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely remember, like, did you ever get a sleeping bag, Maddie, as a kid and like go
Oh,
downstairs?
100%. We had a great like front stairway.
I could picture you guys having like a cool curved one where you could like ride the wall.
Oh, that would be fun. No, it was just huge. It was just like this huge black staircase that was all wood, so you could like it was real slippery.
Ooh, yeah.
Whoa, all wood. That's aggressive.
It was, but very cool.
Oh, but I bet you got going quick enough
Yeah,
that like
go
you didn't
fast.
hit each stair, because we had a staircase directly into a 90-degree landing that was like 30 inches by 30 inches. Like it was a really skinny staircase. And so you would get all this momentum and then just smash into the wall at the bottom because there was no place for you to run out the speed. Yeah. That's like the best thing about being a kid is you would do that stuff and it would entertain you for days. Like it would never get old.
I feel like that's one of the things the kids are missing out on. I bet no kids anymore do sleeping bag down the stairs.
Oh, I don't think that's true.
I don't know. If you had like literally every movie or show that had ever been made accessible to you, and like all these like crazy video games and YouTube and all that stuff, it's so easy to get sucked into that.
I don't know. I mean, yes, I absolutely think there's way more distraction, and that's really hard. But like, I feel like I wish I was like the cool kid that also always went down the stairs in a sleeping bag. But like, I spent most of my childhood reading books. I think I just would like curl up in a corner and read a book forever. But like, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like you can't like rip out all that fun and naivete out of kiddos if you hand them a iPod, but maybe iPad.
I don't know. I hope
Yeah.
they...
But it's
They don't,
definitely
but-
more complicated and different and...
I would not want to be a kid growing up now. It seems very difficult. Like I look at like middle school kids now and I'm like, whoa.
Oh, like having social media as a kiddo would be
Yeah.
terrifying. Like it's hard enough as a full functioning adult. I'm like, my life should be like that, right? You're like, no, it shouldn't. You're fine. It's curated. But as like a little kiddo, or I'm like, where are my friends somewhere where I'm not?
Yeah.
It'd be really hard.
Well, yeah, I had just heard an argument with one of our friends and his daughter that's in high school, and like just about how difficult her life is and how much anxiety she has, and she has to go to therapy and all this stuff at like 15, 16 years old. And
Yeah, but I mean, that being said, like, I had a ton of anxiety and depression when I was 15 or 16, and I didn't have Facebook. Like, and not to be like, oh my God, blah, 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 cry me a river. But, like, I don't think that's the only thing that can, I think that's absolutely something. Like, I know that Facebook does not help my anxiety and depression. Like, that's one of the things I have to be like, okay, let's take a little break from our phones. And it's way easier as an adult to acknowledge that and know that. But I also don't think it's, like, the only thing causing anxiety and depression now. Sorry, my leg's falling asleep, so I have to fidget.
Fidget away. Well, and I feel like you've specifically dealt with like anxiety in a way that like Dylan and I just haven't. Like we've talked about this while we've just like hung out before of like I genuinely don't always appreciate what that emotion is like versus like I feel like that's a pretty common emotion Like, it's easy for me to be like, no one has it. Right? Because it's not like a major staple in my emotional roulette wheel. But at the same time, like, it's super common.
And I would I know not like it's easy to be like, oh, I don't think that they would be like, they're probably fine. No, I'm sure that Facebook and social media is like a horribly disruptive force. And yeah, like I wonder if it's just like yet another trigger that makes it more complicated to be a kiddo, which I think it probably does, because it's complicated being a kiddo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what are some of the things that, like, because you've learned to deal with it so much more now, what are some of the things that you would have told little Maddy back in the day, like,
cute, adorable Maddy?
As opposed to this version of Maddy, which is none of those. I'm kidding.
So hey!
I like that you thanked me, and then you were like, wait
a minute. I still am that. That's like how my sister like controlled me for years.
Yeah.
We
have to talk about
that.
That's so great. I'm sorry I drove you to hit me.
My sister was the best. Like, I'd literally, like, she'd, like, kick me, and, like, 5 seconds later, I'd be like, I'm so sorry I drove you to this.
What?
Until finally I was, like, I don't even know, maybe, like, 11, when I was like, wait a minute. You? Like, I remember this. We were, like, on spring break in a hotel room, and I was like, you kicked me? And you could just see her wheels turning, and she was like,
my reign of terror is over.
It will never be the same. It will never be the same.
Because were you the little?
Yeah, I was
obviously.
The
yeah, so I was the older, and I was the
you
one.
You were the reign of terror.
I was the reign of terror for sure.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Sweet, poor little Taylor.
How much older?
Like 17.
3 years.
Is you're still
that's
picking on?
that's older. My sister's 2 years older, which is like just enough to reign of terror. I don't actually know if it would be worse with 3 years. We just overlapped like the perfect amount. I feel like we're like we had our own lives, but could overlap. Well, it's handy as adults because now we can be friends.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like my sister never psychologically got to me, but she was like bigger and stronger than me for a long time. So she would just like actually beat the hell out of me.
I think there was just like no game in that in my sister because I was so much smaller that like I think she wanted a challenge. So I think
so she was like, she's clearly smart. I'm gonna pick.
Yeah, versus like she'd be like,
battles.
She's gonna cry in like 1 second, and mom is gonna be on her side. But she's like, this seems harder and better. Let me destroy her slowly by slowly. No, my sister's great. I love her.
Yeah, I met her the last 2 days.
Woman.
Wonderful person.
Yes. Oh my gosh, but terrifying.
That's so
she
funny.
like was so terrifying too. Like in college. Like reign of terror for any man that ever wanted to date me. Like I remember literally this man was in her year, had graduated. He had like visited our house over Christmas. No one knows how. He just all of a sudden was there. Which I did not
that's
hate.
pretty suspicious.
I didn't hate because I had a crush on him and I was like, oh my gosh, you're in my house. This is the most convenient thing ever. But we'd like had a little thing and he was just like, oh, and I told my sister about it. And she was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, oh, yeah, your sister, like, asked me to go snowshoeing? And I was like, I'm sure she did. And, like, he comes back, and literally she was like, yeah, he just, in the middle of the field, was like, I know you won't support this, but, like, please don't undermine me. He's, like, a very large, like, almost an Olympian. Like, and yeah, sister, reign of terror.
That is hilarious.
She smacks down.
I could see that, though. Like, I'm a pretty... like, I don't know what the word is, but I'm very comfortable in like who I am and who I'm not and all that stuff. And as a grown man meeting your sister for the first time, I still was like, oh,
she's like
this person is even more certain about their life than I am. Like I could just feel it like, all right, cool. Like she's exactly who she is. I'm exactly who I am. And there's not going to be any mixing of the waters. It is going to be everyone's going to be who they are. There's not going to be any mixing of the waters.
I had this, like, delightful lover who was, like, the most charming, like, oh, my gosh, just such a delightful human being. And he meets my sister for the first time, and he literally, like, goes in for a hug. And she was like, oh, we're not ready for that yet. And he was just, like, he was the best because he was like, okay. By the end of the night, she was like, okay. Which was like, I was like,
Wow.
You did good, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how she.
I wonder what would have happened if he just... Because my first instinct when people are like... Well, not anymore, but for a long time, I would go for a hug and someone would be like, no, thank you. And I would just be like, you're getting hugged. So you're about to be uncomfortable, but it'll be worth it. I give great hugs.
You do give great hugs, though.
and I can only imagine what she would have done if he was like, I'm hugging you. Deal with this. I wonder if she would have been like, respect. Way to like stand your ground, or if she would have just like
maybe actually
dropped him.
He was a delightful human being, so I could see that, and gave very good hugs. Maybe not like.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think you would like him. You guys would have a great like hugging, a co-hug.
Yeah, there's only one person I think that I would respectfully bow out to in the hug game, and that is Brandon Kelly. He was on our podcast, and he's
a good hugger.
He's a great person, and he's probably one of the only people who makes me look like very introverted and low energy.
Oh my gosh,
like,
I'd be very curious.
He's 1,000%. If I'm 100%, he is 1,000%. And it's never not on. I've never seen it not on.
Like,
it's
I wonder
crazy.
who he is like when he's sleeping.
I bet it's just as intense.
Like he's like a dog.
Yeah.
He's like running in his sleep.
100%. Like, I'm sure
or
it's just
like passes out. Like, that's how intense he is. He's like, I'm on and now I'm off.
Ooh.
I bet that could be like, it's just like totally like
deep
done,
breath.
and then 8 hours later he's just like,
yeah, just bolts awake.
I'm ready.
I'll have to text him and find out that, because he would be so
Give me a burrito.
Yeah. He ate an 8-pound burrito.
Oh my gosh.
He does that, I believe,
like
he
once
does
a
that
week.
Oh,
several times a week. He orders
wow. Is he
the
like
biggest.
Yeah, that's a lot of burrito.
He's like bodybuilder jacked.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
huge. But anyways, so back to our original point. That got off the rails a little bit, but I enjoyed it. What would you have told little Maddy?
I also
I feel like that's like a helpful thing, because I think now
Yeah.
you found like some keys to like the joy quota of like getting yourself to a place where like you can find joy, and like you know a little bit of the recipes of like, oh, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling this, and I would like to be more along the lines of like more confidence or more joy or creativeness. Like, what are some of the things that you would have told little Maddy when you were like going through some stuff?
Oh gosh. And I was like, I hope I have something profound to say, and I'm not sure I do.
If it's a dick joke, I'll be just as happy.
Oh my god, that would be great.
Now you're putting all this pressure on her.
Right?
It could be anything.
Gosh.
If it's not
Well, I
funny.
think one thing that really changed one of the huge things that shifted in my life was figuring out I was an athlete, which I didn't realize for a really long time, because like I didn't have hand-eye coordination. So like my sister was this wonderful athlete, but she played like soccer and tennis, and I'm horrible at those things.
Yeah, like more traditional sports.
And movement now for me is a really helpful thing. Like rowing was sort of the thing that made me realize I was an athlete, and was the thing that enabled me, like all of a sudden I had like a pretty raging eating disorder, and I'd only had my body try and be smaller and smaller. And when you're not comfortable in your body, you also are like that's something I notice now, that when my body issues start to ramp up, then like depression and anxiety, like those usually go hand in hand, where like I get depressed and I start to not feel comfortable in my body, or I don't feel comfortable in my body, and then I get anxious and depressed. But rowing was one of the first things where I was like, oh my God, like the goal wasn't for my body to get smaller and smaller, and I could actually see my body get bigger and enjoy that and have curves and really be interested and curious about that. But then also feel like really powerful and really strong. And there's something about depression can be hard, because I think if you work, like it's so hard to exist for me, and it's so physical that like if I go in and try and do like a super intense workout, then that hits the same level of discomfort that I'm like already existing at, and I'm just like, then I just like cry a lot in public or at the gym.
You just hit like the resonance frequency of your emotions, and it just
and
breaks
just
everything.
like it's exactly what happens. Or like I did jujitsu, and I just remember like it was like we were doing 3 5-minute rounds, and like the first 5 minutes I was like, ooh, that's close to my emotional ceiling. Okay. And then we do like the second round, and I was like, oh, emotional ceiling hit. And then we started the third round, and I literally didn't even, like, I just started bawling.
I can't imagine what that would be like to be grappling, and then just the person you're grappling just starts weaving.
It was like my best received public meltdown ever. It was the best. Like, this huge guy was rolling with me, and he just was like, "It's okay. Everyone cries in jiu-jitsu. I cried last night. My girlfriend just broke up with me, and so I just sat on my bed and I cried." And it was just
what
like
a good guy!
the sweetest thing. And I was like, oh, this is an open mat. No one has obviously seen me totally melt down in the middle of it. So I'm like, got out safe. Good for me. Only one person saw me cry. But then we I can't even think of the right lingo. I'm so sorry. We signed out and, we're like off the mat. And every single man in that class, was an all-male class, just found a reason to come up to me and be like, "Hey, Maddy, what are you doing this weekend?" Or would just touch me on the shoulder. And it was just the sweetest, most wonderful thing ever. But then I also was like, I don't think getting choked right now is the most helpful thing for my emotional state.
Yeah.
So I did not really do a lot of jiu-jitsu in that period when I was super depressed. But sorry, anyways, movement for me has been really helpful because, especially with anxiety, it moves anxiety out of my body. But I also feel starting CrossFit was really wonderful because it was the first time CrossFit demands that you're really explosive. And also, it builds bodies that are really hard to knock down, which now I'm playing with because I don't need to be so hard to knock down. I think when I was so unsure in myself, it was really helpful to have a body that was so solid, that could be immovable. And now that I feel less unsteady in my own feet, I'm much more interested in being immovable and being dynamic and twisting and flowing.
Yeah, it's more on your terms.
Yeah, and I'm not so worried about my body having to hold me up. It can be much more of a co-relationship instead of oh good God, something be solid because I am a hot mess.
That's so interesting because, Dylan, I'm just listening to this. You are so aware of your body, and it sounds like you always have been. Have you ever been aware of your body, ever? Because I'm thinking, I've never really been aware of my body. Every now and again, I've been all right, time to stop eating a sleeve of Oreos at a time and eat healthy for a month or two. And but I've never felt my own body. Maybe sometimes when I'm riding, I'm not riding well. But I'm just curious if that's maybe something that you've gone through.
I guess I don't felt my body. I don't know.
Because she's aware of I need it to be sturdy, or you're just, oh, I'm interested in curves now and feeling softer and all of that stuff. I've never actually taken a moment to analyze my body in that way. And it sounds like you've just always been super aware of that, Maddy.
I think that's, everyone has to look at their body. I think that's, you're lying to yourself if you say you're not looking at your body and judging yourself. Of course you are.
I guess, but I don't know. It's just never come up to me.
From somebody that tried to join a 6-pack challenge and then gave up.
But it was more about the fun than the challenge of it.
Well, I guess I don't know if this is the right question.
My body doesn't feel any different than when I was in the 6-pack challenge and I was working out every day. I don't feel the difference.
Then you're not very in tune with your body if you don't feel different from working out versus not working out, because there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference.
And I wonder, I don't think this is the right question, but do you view your body as you? Do you view it as a separate thing? I think what's tricky about me and my body is I had a really disordered relationship with my body for a really long time. So there was also from the moment I was really aware of my body, I was disappointed in it. I wanted it to be something else. And then when I was in the depth of my eating disorder, then you're I was anorexic and I literally was not in my body anymore. You can't, I remember one moment when I was I was so into boarding school. So I was in my dorm room. I was 14, so I was a freshman. I looked in the mirror and for just a split second, I remember seeing my rib cage and my elbows and everything. I was just I was so small. And I remember a split second being oh, balls. What the fuck? And then I stopped feeling it again. And so it's been a really interesting thing to have to be back in my body, because a lot of times it's been really, really uncomfortable. And recently, in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years or decade, it's been a much softer relationship. But I guess what I'm curious about is do you feel like your body is the same as you? So then it's like there's not really a difference. So like you being in you is not you necessarily being in your body. It's just you walking around. Or it's like if you have a much maybe like a harder relationship with your body, then oftentimes it's like something that's working against you. Like I know a lot of, especially like a lot of women, but anyone who's like, I feel like if you have a troubled relationship with your body, sometimes it's like, oh, like my body's always fucking letting me down. When usually like a body holds on weight because it's like doing its job. Like it's having your back. Like that's literally, it's like nothing else in the world has your back as much as your body does. Like it's just doing what
doing what you ask.
Yeah, it's doing what you ask, and it's doing what
consciously asking it to do.
Yeah, like it's trying to keep you safe, and like I mean, restricting calories is a really good example of that. Like our bodies are ancient, and so they're just like famine, like oh no, and so it just holds on to it, or it reads stress the same way it does. Like it reads stress as stress. So it's like, oh my gosh, like a lion in the savannah is the same as like I'm looking at my body and just hurling shame at it. Like it doesn't look at that differently, so it also processes it the same way, and so it holds on to weight. Because when you're running away from a lion, you're not like, do you know what I should do? Just like open up some fat stores and like really lose some weight and like blah blah blah. So it's like it always has your back, but like if you feel like it's always working against you, you're going to be much more aware of your body. And I think the hard thing about that is you can be aware of your body and angry at it, but like the really interesting thing is if you start to heal that relationship, you can be really aware of your body. And I usually say,
it sounds cool.
It's super cool. And a thing that's been happening lately that I love, that makes me so happy, is I do like a little kind of just like daily blessing where I like burn some sage and some Palo Santo, and I then like say a little blessing, and one of that is like, may I like be kind to myself, may I be, fuck me, what is it?
It's only a daily thing, so don't.
Gosh, yeah, I only say it every day. May I meet my body and myself with kindness and joy. And whenever I say joy, it's like such an interesting notion that I can literally feel my body be like,
really?
yes, please. And I like look forward to that moment every morning now. Like I almost missed it, and I was like, I gotta have my like little joy moment with my body.
Wow.
And it's really lovely, but that's taken like 31 years.
That's awesome.
That's such a like interesting and different from anybody we've had on the Joy Quota podcast of like an actual joy practice.
Yeah.
Of like you're physically doing something that brings you joy, which is awesome.
Probably the only person.
Nailed it.
That's what I said. That's what I said. Like,
but like even that comes close to that. Like maybe some people are like aware of joy as a concept, but yeah.
And I don't know what it's funny. Like I like kind of stumbled upon that word. Like I just said kindness, and then I actually like maybe a couple weeks ago or a month ago added joy, and that was so like that's the recent thing. Yeah, that just really like evoked a physical response and made me really aware. Like I see my body as a separate thing, like not as like a like, oh my gosh, I'm so much different than but it's like this entity that I get to share my life with, and I get to be in conversation with. And for me, that gives me a little bit more space too. Like I'm really interested in like, what if we gave our bodies like as much space and latitude and forgiveness as we do a lover? Like with a lover or a partner, if they disappoint you, you're not necessarily going to be like, this is it.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, okay, this was hard, but let's like look at this. And like, I think with bodies sometimes, because it feels like they can be like us, then there's no space to have that conversation. And so it's been really lovely trying to like give my body her own space a little bit and be like, okay, like, thank you. I see what you're doing here. This is hard for me. Or like, thank you for having my back. Like I've been trying to do that a lot more when depressed and anxious. If I like, cause I'll just hurl shit at it all day, especially if I'm one of those things, I'm not very kind to it. And then I'll go to the gym and it'll move, and I'll like try and do a little cool down walk and just be like, thanks. I was a pain in the butt today. Like I was not kind, and I appreciate you showing up anyways. And just being better at like acknowledging that has been very helpful.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I think it's really important, and me especially, like of course, like anyone, mostly notice my body when it hurts, but being able to be grateful when it doesn't hurt, I think is really important, and something that I should definitely get better at, and maybe other people should too, and try and notice
I'm picking up on the subtle hints.
No, I didn't. I mean, that was not intended for you specifically,
but received.
Noted.
Because even just in this conversation, I'm like, yeah, when is the last time I appreciated that I haven't been hurt in a while?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's important to appreciate. Like, my body hasn't been sick. It hasn't been hurt in months. Like, that's pretty good. I do some stuff that could
fuck it up.
yeah, and it holds strong and lets me. I think it's gotten used to it. It's like, all right, this is just another day. We're gonna keep doing.
And how like interesting and wonderful that bodies are so resilient like that, where it's like, okay, like, I guess this is the norm. Like, I will pull through for you. And it's so like, I'm so grateful that how like not kind I've been to my body for so long. It still's like showing up, maybe not how you want me to, but like, I'm going to. And there's like no other part in your life that does that. There's nothing else.
This is all so interesting for me. I genuinely don't think, like, when it's hurting, when it's good, I don't think of it. I never am, like, it just, I don't know. It's weird. This is all, like, so uncharted territory for me. I don't.
But it's funny because, like, on the one hand, and sometimes if someone said that, I'd be like, oh, like, maybe you were like shutting off your body. But like, I don't necessarily get that vibe from you. Like, I almost just feel like you and your body are like in cahoots and are like, let's just do it.
We are, like, for sure cahoots.
Don't think about it, which is kind of lovely.
Yeah, like, it's not like we're not working together. I just genuinely don't think of it. Like, I am my body. I'm more of like, I picture myself as a spiritual being having a human experience. So, like, I'm always concerned about what my spirit is up to. I'm very diligent of, like, am I, like, what is my eternal self being? But, like, it never occurs to me to, like, think once about, like, even when I've, like, broken bones or torn stuff, like, the only way I think of it is, like, how is this going to affect, like, the part of me that doesn't have anything to do with this broken leg or whatever it is? So I think this is, like, a new way that I can, like, everyone has, like, a place where their work is. And I think that my work lies ahead in, like, actually experiencing and, like, being in my body more, maybe?
What?
Well,
go on.
because you don't practice yoga, you don't really do any kind of stretching or anything like that, and I think that is something that helps people in general kind of combine those two things.
But you are super physical. But I also wonder too, like, we all have lenses through which we, like, see the world and through which we ask questions and answer them. And for me, like, because a lot of my struggle has been in my body, and I would say, like, two of my main lenses are, like, I struggled with my body and I've struggled in relationships. And so, like, those are the two things I always come back to as my, like, those are the lenses in which I view the world and in which I ask questions and answer them. And, like, your body just might also not be that thing, so it might not be as present. Whereas, like, your internal self and how you define that, because it's funny because I kind of think my body, like, do I consider my body my internal self? Like, kind of, sort of, like, it's different. But, like, it might just not be your lens. Like, for me, that's, like, what I always find myself talking about with people is I find myself talking about, like, love, sex, and body. Because that's how I understand the world, and that's how I interpret it.
Wow. Yeah.
Do you feel like what are your lenses? Like, what do you come back to?
We'll be asking the questions. Thank you very much. That's an awesome question.
That's a little deep for the joy.
No, I'm all about it. Dylan, get after it.
The lens which I view the world.
Or one of them. Like, is there an area that you always ask questions, or, like, a thing that always comes up in conversations? Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, God damn it, I'm talking about sex again. And it's like, of course I am. It's it's one of my lenses, but, like, or
if you need to tag me in and think.
I don't.
It could also be right now, like, a lens that you're interested in. So, like, what's something that you're exploring or discovering, or, like, an area you're asking a question in right now? I don't know. Is that a better question?
All of my stuff is just shallow. Like, what adventure can we go on? I don't
think that's shallow though. Like, that's interesting to be like, I mean, when you say like what adventure, is it like curiosity and excitement, or place? Like, is it like finding yourself and asking and answering questions in like a different space and in a different, like around different cultures or different food or different scenery and context? Like, context is a really interesting way to, I mean, if you think about like, I think in relationships for me, so I'm like, let me bring back my lens.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But like men for me, like I'm like in my mid-20s, I broke up with like the man that was like the closest I've ever been to being like, this is my person, this is who I want to spend life with. And the thing I was very curious about was like, at 25, I was like, I don't really know who I am, and I don't want to get into another long-term relationship yet. Like, I'm really curious of who I am when reflected upon a lot of different people. Like, I wanted to see, because different parts of you show up in the presence of different people, and maybe like, you know, there's that, like with friends, like different versions of you show up, or with partners and lovers, different versions of you show up. And I think that can be very true of places. Like, a different version of you might show up in Thailand than in Denver. Or like, it was so fun. I went to Brooklyn a couple months ago, and like, oh my God, the like no bra, like nipples out version of me showed up, which I am in love with. And it was so wonderful to like uncover that part of myself that feels a little too much here in Denver, and to be in Brooklyn and be like, I love it here. And also, I was so nervous about fitting in because I was like, oh my God, people are going to be like way too cool, and I'm just going to seem like a country girl from Denver. And then I was like, bitches, no, I fit in. I love it here, and I can take up so much space and no one minds. Like, everyone's excited about it. And then it was so lovely to be able to bring that back to Denver. So I think like places is like a wonderful way to explore oneself.
Well, I guess that is part of the so I'm going to be leaving to go explore the world for a while, and that's kind of one of the reasons, because I feel like I've developed this character that I have to play around all the people I know.
Sure.
Just becoming comfortable is part of this thing of like, you're this one person, and then I definitely have felt like in other places I can be that other person, but I'm still like, I've never traveled solo, and so this will be my first time, and I'm just gonna go for however long I feel like. And that's part of it, is like, I can be totally myself because nobody will know me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be around complete strangers, and that's part of like the nervousness, but also the fun of it, and like trying to collect experiences. Like, that's what I'm, over the last few years, I've kind of decided that I want to do, is just collect experiences and experience as many different things as possible.
Oh, that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
Cool.
Well,
thanks.
And it's funny that you brought that up. It answers my question of like, or the question of why I don't realize my body. Like, my lens or like blueprint or story or whatever I'm telling myself is like, my genuine goal in life is to always show up as the exact same version of myself, no matter who I'm around, which I feel like I've gotten pretty, like, if I'm out and about, and like around strangers, I feel like I might be a little more exaggerated so that I like attract more of a crowd and can like make friends or something. But like, I feel pretty darn like
cohesive.
Yeah. Like, who I am with Allie is who I am when I'm working with Seth, or I'm out playing around on an adventure with Dylan, or like helping a friend move, or like any of those things. I feel like my like lens is like, no matter what I'm doing, I want to be the exact same version of myself, because I feel like I've kind of stepped into myself, and I feel very confident of like who I am and who I am not. So I don't want to like compromise that no matter what the situation is, versus Dylan's doing the fun thing of like who he is when no one's around, like getting to go through the experience of traveling around and riding solo, where it's like, today I'm going to try and be this version of Dylan, or like once you find things that you like about yourself, like I'm sure that you'll come back like a completely different person just from like getting to try on different versions of yourself. I remember doing it in high school because I went to a small school, kindergarten through 8th grade, and no one knew me. And I remember like the sweet release of high school. I was so excited to go into high school because not a soul knew me. And I was like, yes, I've lived with the same 40 kids for the last 9 years of my life. And now no one at the school knows anything about me other than whatever I decide to present to them. And so that was like the first time I made friends on my terms. And like, obviously it took me like a decade before I really figured out who I was. But like, I do remember that experience still kind of the same thing of like, no one, I get to be whoever I decide to be. There's no preconceived notions of who I am. Like I could show up as anything and whoever I'm with just assumes that that's who I am. So I like remember trying on like so many different hats of like, is this who I want to be or is this who I want to be?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right. Yeah. You had the, I guess it's a benefit at this point where you got to do that so young. And then it's something where like I didn't necessarily think about it until you've brought it up recently. And it's like, man, I should, because I've definitely felt myself do it, like change who I am in front of other people. And I don't know, just trying to figure it, I guess. I mean, it's so typical though to like, oh, I'm going to go travel and find myself.
Well, that's because most people didn't get the luxury of going to like a new place with the like, I don't know why as an 8th grader, or not even like, I think it was like before I even left middle school when I was like just counting days to go to high school. Like that's like, I remember like pre-gaming it, like, all right, I'm going to study like, like an alien looking at humans. Like I'm going to study these people and understand what qualities I want. Like I remember watching Hercules and like practicing my smile. Like the cartoon Hercules, I was like, that's what I want my smile to look like. And I want my smile to look like that. And I literally would like sit in the mirror and practice smiling. And it was like real sociopath behavior at the time, but like
adorable in this case.
But like I think just most people don't get that experience. Like, and especially just Dylan, because you were such a shy, introverted person, like you got kind of boxed into that. Like so many people know you as like a shy, introverted person that doesn't talk. So then like...
Then I'm expected to be that, and then if I'm anything else...
Or wild man. Like there's no just like calm in the middle, right? Like people either know you as Dylan the villain who like sets hostels on fire, or you're like the quietest person and like people are shocked that you say anything.
I really struggle. Like I also am very introverted, and I think like that's been an interesting thing. Like now in my life, like I'm not like now whenever I'm like, oh, I'm introverted, especially if someone who's like seen me coach, like I also coach, and they're like, what? I'm like, yes, introverts can be social, like it is a thing that happens.
Just means I charge by myself.
Yeah. But like one of the things I think that was really helpful for me in my 20s was to give me permission to be kind of the opposite of what you're saying. Instead of cohesive, to be like, I can be as many like what am I trying to say, like discrepant or like not matching up parts as I want to be. Like I don't have to be a cohesive person, because I think especially as an introvert, when it feels like who you are charging up by yourself, it can be so different than who you are out. And it's like, I remember for the longest time I'd be like, oh my god, who is real? Like which version of me is real? And it was so helpful to be like, they're fucking all real. Like you can be as many pieces of yourself, and they don't have to make sense, and they can totally contradict. Thank you. They can totally contradict yourself. And it doesn't matter because you're allowed to be faceted. Like that's so interesting. And I think especially, and I'm sure a lot of this is my own projection, but it's been hard for me with my family, is like they've loved me and support me and knew me when I was super shy and super quiet and took up like no space in the world. And I think it's been hard for, like, I will go back and sort of like feel myself going back into that version, and I'll be like, is this life that I created like totally fake and not real in Denver? Like, am I just pretending that I have confidence and space? And like, and it's been really helpful lately to be like, no, like not the same. And like, we should evolve and change, and that's part of the deal. But I also think, especially as an introvert, in which it takes work to show up, and that doesn't mean that it's fake. Like, it doesn't mean that how you show up in public is superficial or not real. But like, I mean, I very much sometimes, like, if I'm out, I'm like, here goes the Maddy show. Like, let's fucking do it. Yeah. And like, I love that version of me, but like, and just because I put it on doesn't mean it's fake. But like, for a long time, it felt fake. That was my introvert soapbox.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely relate, because like there's like newer friends that I've only known for the last couple years where I have like gotten out of my shell per se, but then I'll talk about how shy I am, and they're just like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're this social person and all this, and I'm like, but that's not who I was. And so I feel exactly the same way, like when you say with your family, like you can kind of get back into that like introvert so easily when you get back into that environment, and especially around friends like Gavin, where he likes to steal the show, if you will. And just but I think this podcast has helped, where like it's both of us. It's not just about Gavin. And like, yeah, sometimes I have to like burst in and if I want to say something, but it's really helped.
I was like at dinner with two friends who are extroverts who are great, but like fucking got in a conversation. Like I literally, it was such an interesting mental exercise, because for a while I was like, God, they don't even care about me. Like, they don't even want, and then I was like, oh, they're two extroverts. Like, I love them. They are going.
I'm supposed to talk over them.
Yeah.
That's the only way they communicate.
It was like two things happened where I was like, I don't have to say anything. Like, cause I was like, I should be so talkative right now. And I was like, I don't have an opinion about this. Like, I don't have to say anything. And then when I did, which would be like every 15 minutes, I literally had to be like, time out. I have something to say. And then they'd stop, and then I'd say something, and I'd be like, proceed. But it's, yeah, like sometimes, like, yeah, it's interesting with that extroverts, and you're like, okay, guys, time out.
I'm tagging in.
I'm entering this conversation.
Yeah.
But certain extroverts also, like, not you, I love you, you're great. But like, I have certain extrovert
Give it to
friends.
me. I need
no,
people
you're
in
not.
my
It's
life.
so interesting, because I'm trying to figure this out. I have certain extrovert friends who I leave, and I'm like, of course, like, actually my other introvert friend said this well. She was like, yeah, of course they're extroverts. They literally take energy from other people. Because I'll leave and I'm like, I'll like lie on the floor for like 45 minutes. But your extrovert energy does not do that.
It's only like 20 minutes.
Like, thank God. No, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so warm and fuzzy.
So you can't tell because I closed the door to our bedroom, but on my wall, I made a mirror a long time ago. It was my version of my like daily affirmation, right? So you're like, I'm going to meet myself with kindness and joy. It just says, I am love, joy, and unstoppable passion, or like enthusiasm. Kind of goes back and forth. I think it says passion.
I hope it says passion. It's your bedroom. Jeez.
But that's hilarious. I think enthusiasm is better.
Either one. Actually, you know what? I take it back. Unstoppable enthusiasm. I think that would be better.
But yeah, it says, I am a force of unstoppable love, joy, and passion or enthusiasm. It kind of goes back and forth. But I remember like you said, for a while, it literally physically changed me. Every time I said it, it just love. It was like meeting my own resonance frequency is like the only way I can describe it. Of like, I would just feel my whole body buzz a little bit of like, this is so nerdy, and Dylan, I'm sorry, you're not going to get this because you're not on the in, but there's this book series called Aragon, and I found my true name, is how I think of it. Like, as silly as that is, of like really truly describing the eternal spiritual being, not the human experience being of myself. And that's when all of a sudden I stopped worrying about like who I showed up as. I was like, I'm going to be this. I'm going to be these three things no matter what's going on. Like, these are the three things. Like, as long as I'm those three things, I am myself. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny that Dylan talked about like this podcast and this channel being like such a new experience for us and like a growing opportunity, because I've been editing the podcasts and like I don't still fully understand how much I can be. So like listening to the podcast where I'm editing like, oh, this is how long Maddy talked, this is how long Dylan talked, this is how long I talked, has been like a really eye-opening experience where like sometimes I have to just sit there and not say anything. Because in my mind, I'm like, I have so much to share. How will they know that I love them if I'm not sharing?
Yeah.
So it's fun. I love this kind of stuff. This is what brings me joy. Like, hopefully people catch on it and like it spreads. I think joy's pretty contagious.
And yes, I think it is. I think that's something I want to like go over that. But I think it's interesting, and I don't know if this is an actual thought, it's just forming, but like the thing, Gavin, you're talking about is like consistency, is like showing up as these things, and then kind of that's like,
but in different ways.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know if this is making it too introvert extrovert, but like as in like introvert, like it's helpful to show up in a lot of different ways because you have to.
Exactly.
And we had like a side conversation about this the other day, but of like the safer I think for introverts to show up, I don't know, at least for me, like we have to feel safe, like we have to feel safe in where we are in order to show up more fully as ourselves. And if we don't, like for me, like crowds make me feel unsafe, and I'll just be like and I think like the thing that can be consistent with an introvert is like, do we feel safe in ourselves? And then we feel better at showing up however we need to show up, and that because we're just showing up as ourselves, and that might not be it might not look consistent. Like I might show up really quiet in certain areas and really loud and big in other, and I'm okay with that. I'm more okay with that now because I feel safer and more solid in who I am. And so it's been interesting trying to cultivate like a degree of safety in myself and in my body, and then seeing, because I for a long time felt unsafe in my body just because I didn't trust it. Like that's just not a place where you can feel safe it's a place of distrust. And so it's been lovely to establish trust and then a safe space, so then I can be like, oh, that's my constant, versus like, hopefully I show up consistently as me, but what that looks like is very different. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a real thought, but it's the one I had.
It was a real thought.
It's the one I had.
I mean, that's just a difference between men and women, I think, though, and we've maybe talked about it. It's like, or it's been discussed, like, as guys, we don't necessarily feel unsafe ever,
interesting.
right?
Okay.
Like, there's never, I mean, not never, but very,
Much
very
less
rarely
likely.
do we ever feel, like, I could say I feel unsafe. I feel uncomfortable and things like that, but as far as, like, someone's actually going to hurt me or feel unsafe, like, that's so rare, where, you know, there's been all kinds of things with women where, like,
Monday I was like, yeah, it's like I can think of the last time I felt unsafe.
Yeah, I can't.
Actually, it was probably more recent than Monday, but
probably, yeah.
I'm willing to bet.
and I probably would say I'm fine, but like it definitely crossed my mind. So yeah, that's always like, I like opened the gym and it was like by a bus stop, and there were like a bunch of guys out there, and it was like 5 a.m. and I was like, I'm gonna lock all the doors just in case.
Yeah. Well, I like how do I say this? I think that the lenses affect what, I guess, the indicators are, right? Like, I'm trying to think of like an analogy, but I can't. So in my life, feelings are how I gauge where I'm at. So I use my feelings as markers of like, I'm feeling this, which means this. And not as like, so they're like how I control my life and how I control myself and my feelings and my emotions and all that stuff. Versus I feel like because you're so in your body has become that for you. Like your body is your gauge of where Maddy is, right? Like you can feel your body and you're like, oh, I'm feeling anxious, depressed. Mm-hmm. If I use my body, I will get out of this. Mm-hmm. Versus my whole life I struggled with feeling. My whole life. I used to struggle with feelings a lot. So now I'm very comfortable with feelings because it's where I had to do all of my work. Yeah. Like you had to do all of your work in growing into your body and loving your body and feeling comfortable in it. I had to feel comfortable with my feelings. So now, like, if I feel anything, my first thought is, oh, what is this saying about whatever the situation is or who I am?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that's how I gauge it, which is why I never think of my body.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. This has been delightfully, like, we are, like, down in the depths, getting into it. I enjoy this a lot.
Getting into it, yeah.
Thinking about, wondering about, pondering stuff. It's wonderful. Yeah.
I got peed on by a squirrel today.
Is that how did it get
How
that
was
close
this
to
not
you?
the first
Was
thing
it from
we talked
above?
about?
Yes. So.
Oh, okay. I thought it
yeah.
my first vision was like it came up and like peed on your leg, but that
Nope.
did not happen. Okay.
That did not happen. No, I was.
I'm surprised this doesn't happen more actually.
I guess, but this was the first time for me. I
wonder if
didn't
it's,
even
like,
understand what was
luckier than
happening.
getting pooped on by a bird.
Well, that's what I thought it was. Well, okay, so
Yeah, sorry, tell us the story.
I'm in my Aunt Kate's front yard. I was doing some painting, and then a friend called. I was on the phone, just kind of wandering through the yard, and she's got these two like massive 60, 70-foot pine trees,
Yeah.
and she loves the squirrels, and so she feeds them peanuts every day, and it's a thing. I don't know how many there are. There's lots that live in these massive trees. And I'm just like pacing back and forth talking on the phone. And then all of a sudden I feel some drops. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize it was raining. And then I kind of like look around and like, oh, it's not raining at all. Something just, I thought it was a bird. A bird just shit on me for sure. And then I look and it's clear. And then all of a sudden it just starts like on the ground.
Oh my God.
And I look up and there's a squirrel just like running around, like having a grand old time. And I'm like,
Wish I had that much fun. when I
you
peed.
just pissed all over me, didn't you, you son of a bitch?
That's
I've literally
amazing.
never heard that happen.
I've never heard it happening either. And like I smelled it and it didn't smell or anything. And
It was a hydrated squirrel.
it was a
Yeah,
hydrated
good job,
squirrel.
squirrel.
Yeah. Well,
Kate takes care of
yeah,
those things.
and Kate, like, she's got houses for them. She feeds them. There's water all over the place. Like, these are the most taken care of squirrels, and so, like, it was fine. I don't know if you can catch rabies from squirrel piss or
No,
not, but
I don't think so.
That is
That's
Man.
bananas.
that's a.
I
that's
feel
a
like
thing.
you've been blessed somehow. Like
thank you.
getting
I'll
pooped
take
on
that.
by a bird is good luck. Like,
what?
yeah, it's definitely good luck. It's just, I mean, it's like, I feel like my coach in college would be like, I'd always have to pee at the start line, a rowing coach in high school, sorry. And she'd just be like, it's good luck to have to pee at the start line. So I was like, of course it is. And believed that for like 8 years until finally I was like, she was just.
What a magical
Yeah.
person.
I know. So I feel like it's the same, like someone got pooped on and some parent was like, it's good luck. And then the myth was born. Like, I just thought it was good luck. Is it not good luck? to be
Dude,
pooped on?
I love
Ever?
it. I'm
I
gonna
mean,
start.
it's rare. I don't. Yeah, anything that's rare is some kind of luck. So yeah.
No, I'm gonna start saying everything. Like, for a while, Allie and I had this joke of like, because we were just having like a hard time, and so I was like, we are not letting this spiral downwards. We are in exclusively upward spirals. And so anytime something good would happen, we would be like, fuck it, man, it's an
Upward
it's
spiral.
It's an upward spiral. Oh shit. And we would like try just like will it into being of like, it's an upward spiral. Like, this was the best PB&J I've ever had. Upward spiral. And then just like, hopefully it would like lead to the next thing. I'm going to just start saying everything is good luck now.
I think that's
Like,
a good idea.
everything is good luck.
Good luck.
Like, oh, it's windy today. Oh, that's good luck. Just like everything's going to be good luck now.
I broke my leg. Good luck.
Save me from something worse. It's
Yep.
good luck. That's the best. So you're a writer, and this just came to me because I said the word magical, and that I've been real into the word magic lately. Like, I want everything to be magical and mystifying and just like delightful and mysterious. What are you into right now? Like, what's your favorite word? As a writer, I feel like words carry like extra weight with you. Do you find yourself using any specific
Oh my
words?
gosh, this is such a big question. I feel like I should have an answer to it.
I feel like you would have this on your CrossFit
I
board
know.
of like questions you ask.
That would be a
people.
good question.
What's your favorite word?
What's my favorite? Well, my favorite word is fuck because it can be like so many different things. Like, it can be happy, it can be
versatile.
sad, it can be angry, it can be a whole sentence. And like for a really long time, I decided like that I would like, especially when I was young, like I was like, oh my god, like everyone, like I just was I followed too many rules to not say fuck. Like, I'd just be so boring if I didn't say fuck. And now I think that fuck is a really also wonderful way to, like, I don't know, especially if you start to go under, like, the woo feelings path. Like, you can lose people, but I find if you cut it with fuck, like, people get a little less freaked out that you're talking about feelings.
Yeah. Tony Robbins does some stuff where, like, he'll intentionally say some, like, really wild something just because, like, your body has, in your brain, like, has no choice but to, like, snap 100% present, and it, like, it's like hitting you with the defibrillators. It turns everything off and right back on again, and you're like, okay, I'm here. Like,
ready.
He'll, like, be talking to, like, a couple, and then, like, something will happen. He's just like, when was the... whatever they're talking about, just like, when was the last time you gave him a blowjob in front of, like, 5,000 people? And it's so weird and intense and out of the blue that, like, all of a sudden she's, like, crazy honest with herself. Or he'll say the same thing to, like, when was the last time you went down on her? Or, like, just something shocking like that. And it's so funny because it just resets their entire body. You see their, like, physicality change and everything. So that's the same thing as your, like, woo feelings path of, like,
Yeah, jeez. But I still can't think of... Let me think about it. Maybe, like, come back to me. I'll think about it for a second.
Do you have a favorite word, Dylan? Or, like, a word that you're real into lately?
Well, I just posted this on Instagram because we went into this cave. Spelunking has been a word that I've liked for a while.
It's a good word.
That is, like, what does that even mean? Wait, is that going into a cave?
Going
Is
into
that
a
what
cave,
okay.
yeah. So, yeah, like, caving is essentially... yeah, I don't know who came up with it. I don't know where.
It's a great word, though.
Yeah, so that's just a word that I've always liked.
And it is a good word.
I say it out loud very rarely, but in my mind I'm like...
Just like spelunking.
Just all day spunking, spunking.
No, not all day at all.
I'm so happy getting beat on by a squirrel.
Yeah, you can't get beat on by a squirrel in a cave.
Yeah, cave
a bat perhaps. But I bet it's really good luck to get shit on by a bat.
Oh, probably.
That's
it's like the best
luck.
luck.
Rare, yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, because isn't, like, bat guano, like, is a thing that's, like, good for your...
I'm honest, I only know from, like, Ace Ventura, so it's probably not.
No, it's,
a
like,
good
actually
source.
a real thing for sure. It's, like, crazy valuable.
Yeah, I don't know if is it, like, good for your skin or is it good for the grass? One of those things. I'm not sure.
I think it's a lot along the lines of, like, people are like, oh, like, rhino horn is good for, like, male enhancement and, like, weird stuff like that.
Right.
I don't think
it was one of those things. Yeah, that's a really interesting
like
one of as far as, like, devastating the population of rhinos.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't have Viagra, so we're gonna just do this and kill everything. Yeah, that was devastating.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I thought of my word. This might not be... I don't think this is my favorite word right now, but I've used it lately in coaching and I really like it, which is delicious. Like, I'll try and be like, oh my God, guys, this is going to feel delicious. Just to, like, make everyone just appropriately uncomfortable. And I've been, like, doing a lot of stretching and moving and twisting and stuff like that.
Love that word. I've been using it as well. I've
It's
been
just
calling
so
Allie
fun.
delicious a lot.
Ooh, love that.
Really?
Like, it's such a
Yeah.
fun word when taken out of the like, food, yeah, it's delicious. And you're like, duh. And it's, like, not... I think if you put it in a context that it's not supposed to be in, it creates really interesting reactions. Like, I think, especially, like, movement and CrossFit can be like, oh, this is so like, you're not like, this should feel delicious. And I think if you're like, this should feel like, guys, this is gonna feel delicious, then you're like, people are like, wait, can it? Like, what? And I love putting words where they're not supposed to be. I think it's more fun.
No, I'm all for it.
If someone called me delicious, I would be in a not creepy way, like someone I knew and was...
Yeah, like, you don't want a stranger to be like, what's up, delicious? Like, oh no. Not safe.
Not safe. Although, like, I was like, one of the best, like, catcalls I ever got, someone was like, girl, look at those calves. And I was like, really? Like, my calves? Like, thank you. I didn't think to work on them. I appreciate it. It was just
In all fairness,
it was so unexpected.
if I was to take a bite out of a human body, you'd go calf every time.
Be like drumstick kind of like vibe. I feel like, yeah, it's fair.
For sure. I know that's a weird place we went to just now, but that's
okay.
Yeah, it seems like the best part.
Yeah.
Oh, delicious. What a good word. I think that's just like a good metaphor in general for life, is like put things where they're not supposed to be.
And see what happens.
Like, because
I mean, to
a point,
ways.
but like
less so.
Yeah,
in other ways, less
as it
so,
came out of my mouth, I was like, I think this needs some
Maybe.
qualifiers.
Yeah. A couple, like get
But-
consent and have a
But yeah,
conversation
like
about it.
if you feel like you're supposed to be one place, go someplace else
Yeah.
sometimes. Or like if you feel like you're supposed to behave a certain way, every now and again, don't behave that
Yeah.
way. Like I think that's where a lot of, like you see a lot of people swing the pendulum of like they spend their life like, you know, like pastor's kid or something, and like they just all of a sudden one day they snap and they just go to the complete opposite side of the spectrum, and they're like gonna be like death metal crazy, and like everything has to be like so intense. And then there's other people who are like, my whole life I've been like super intense and aggressive, and then I want to just like for once like admit that a puppy is cute, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's, or like I feel very uncomfortable in like a fancy situation where I have to.
Look at this shirt.
This is not a fancy shirt.
Like, I mean, in Denver it is.
It was very hot out in our house,
Linen.
and we've been watching a lot of Jane the Virgin,
Oh,
and there's
that's
beautiful
great linen,
Spanish
yeah.
men in linen shirts, nonstop. And I'm like, I need to get more linen shirts.
Looks
So
great.
that's where this really came from. Is I was like, I want to be as muy guapo as these gentlemen.
Well, I think too, it's interesting. It's sort of like coming back to what we were talking about, maybe even with traveling. Of like, it's also really fun. This is too far. I don't know if this connection is there, but like, take something. It's just going to be pushing the delicious too much. But take something that's really yummy and put it somewhere else too. Like, if you love to do this thing, like try. Like, I think it isn't always to like do something that is totally unexpected, but like delicious is such a great word because it's so yummy and great. And it's only in one place. So like, why can't we make this other thing super yummy and great? Like, why are we only allowed for something to be yummy and great in this one area?
Yeah.
And like, why not we expand that to like so many other areas? Like, God forbid, moving our body is also delicious. And like,
Yeah,
oh
like
my gosh, what
delicious
happens
is a
when our
feeling,
partner
it's an
is
emotion.
delicious?
I want to feel that outside of just food.
Yeah, and it gets you. And that's why like I love like food is such an interesting relationship to look at because I mean there's a lot of things with food, but one thing is it's such a wonderful place to train pleasure and to train enjoyment and receiving and nourishment because that you sit down to a plate of food 3 times a day. And hopefully it's yummy. Hopefully it's delicious. And if it's not, you can also like it's an easier place to tweak than maybe like if getting into bed with a partner is really hard and doesn't feel delicious. That's a harder one maybe to be like, let's make this one feel delicious right now. But be like, well, can I receive pleasure? Like, where can I receive pleasure? And sitting down to a plate of food is a really lovely way to do that. And even just playing with the words that you use is a wonderful way to do that. To be like, how would I use that same verbiage in a different context and see what happens?
Yeah.
But like, I liked what you said about training, or I think that's what you were saying, is training your mouth essentially to think something to appreciate the deliciousness of something that's good for you versus like just eating bullshit, like eating.
Yeah, like the only thing that's delicious isn't like something that's been engineered to be delicious. It can be like peaches right now are fucking delicious, and like having a meal that just like makes you feel so good and nourished is like delicious.
Yeah, but chasing that like mouth pleasure of like
mouth pleasure.
Yeah.
Mouthfeel is also one of my favorite
I did
words
not
right
invent
now.
that, by the way.
Okay.
No, absolutely. That is a Joe Rogan thing. I listen to way too much Joe Rogan, but of like, yeah, of course, like a fried chicken sandwich is delicious, or a bacon cheeseburger from Shake Shack is delicious. But if you eat that every single day, and that lasts like maybe 5 minutes if you're lucky, versus if you can appreciate the deliciousness of some vegetables and it, for different people it's different things, but like appreciate the deliciousness of something that is actually good for you, then going back to the body situation, like it's good for your body not only in every aspect, right? Like you're gonna feel better if you can. I don't know where I'm going.
No,
I
know
think
where
you're
you're
right
headed.
there.
Because
Yeah.
I'm picturing
Yeah, I'm-
Dylan helped me start thinking that food that wasn't garbage was delicious. Like he was the first person that made me like a meal of sweet potato and broccoli and like meat that had turmeric and like all these things that were like actually healthy and reasonable to eat. I'd never once eaten until I was into my 20s. Mm-hmm. Like it never occurred to me. Like I said, I don't think of my body ever. I just like, if I'm hungry, I eat and I just keep going. I don't care what I eat. And so like, that was a journey of like teaching myself, like now I love sweet potato and broccoli and meat. Like I eat it 3-4 times a week of like, that's my meal. I just put those 3 things in there because it's so delicious to me. Partly because it's good for me. But like Dylan said, it's something I trained myself to like to appreciate.
Right, and it's not difficult to train yourself because if you prepare it right, it is delicious. But it's important, and it's just like that tiny bit of not laziness that you have to do to like make your own food, and like not be just lazy is so huge for like your body, how your body feels and reacts, and like.
Well, and I think cooking food sometimes can be really scary. Like it can be really intimidating and really hard, especially if you haven't cooked food before. So like, I know even when I can make the same thing over and over again because I'm just like intimidated to make something else. But I think too, what you were saying, which I love, is like training, even if it starts with like a burger, like just training yourself, not that all burgers are bad, guys, but like training yourself to actually taste and to enjoy is a really helpful thing, because then you get to be so much more curious about food. Like if you're just eating and not thinking and not being present, like it doesn't matter what you eat. But if, I think like I work a lot with clients and in my own body and myself, like if you're like debating what to eat, and to be like, okay, like pause for just a moment if you can, and like, will that taste as good as you think it's going to taste? Will you feel better and satisfied on the other side? Like, will this be delicious? And will you feel nourished? And if all the answers to those questions are like, fuck yeah, it will, and be great, and I'm going to feel like a fucking champion, then like eat whatever that thing is. If it's a burger, if it's a milkshake, if it is like a platter of crudités, like I'm so excited for you. But I think it's really helpful to pause and be like, to pay attention to taste and flavor. And like so often
actually
when I'm like,
enjoy it.
Yeah, when I'm at a party and I'm like looking at something and I'm like, it's like a bowl of chips or whatever, and I'm like, or like some cookies that I don't necessarily like won't serve me, like I'll be like, is that actually gonna be delicious? And usually I'm like, no, fine. And sometimes I'll be like, no, I don't even care, I'm gonna eat it. But I've made a much more conscious choice. Or I'll be like, no, it's not gonna be delicious. Let me go find something that is, or let me wait till I get home, and then I'm gonna watch Jane the Virgin and have a delicious tart all by myself. But like,
yeah, I saw that in the fridge today.
So sad. I didn't see it. I was like, should I have it
it's
tonight
like tucked
or
away
tomorrow?
in the back, and I was like, I guarantee you that's back there so that she doesn't eat it until she really
wants it. But I think training mouthfeel and taste is really wonderful, and then that can open the door to be like, oh, I actually don't know if this tastes that good. Like, what if I try sweet potatoes and broccoli and meat? And like, what if I play around with that more? And that can open the door to so many things.
But this is also from the girl that brought many cookies and chocolates.
Because I was intimidated by food is my love language. I don't have a kitchen right now.
No, I'm largely to blame for the
completely
cookies.
Joking.
She
but
brings
it's very
Seth
funny.
like a turmeric smoothie.
I do.
And then she's like, I know you don't drink coffee. And I went to a coffee shop, and it was, I could get you coffee or this turmeric smoothie, which you don't like either of those things.
And I'm like, oh, I need to give you
But,
something.
You deserve something. So
that's how I
here's
give love.
Cookies. And I'm like, I didn't need them, but I will greatly eat these. I'm so happy.
But I do bring cookies. But that's the thing. Like, I don't think all cookies are bad. Like I struggled as a nutritionist and struggle as a nutritionist, and oftentimes don't like book myself as such, because I don't know. I think like my general rule for food is like, don't be an asshole. Like, don't eat like food that is blatantly not food if it doesn't serve you. Mm-hmm. Like, eat mostly real food. But then like, I know for me in my life, like, yeah, I don't feel awesome when I eat a bunch of gluten, or like I'm honestly probably not gonna eat those cookies because like they won't make me feel good. But like if I'm out, like the other night I was out with friends and I was like 100% I'm gonna house that sourdough and that glass of wine and not think twice about it. Even though I might like not feel great in the morning, like I'm going to make that decision and enjoy it. And I just never want to be the force in someone's life as a nutritionist or as a human that like makes them look at something and feel bad about wanting it. I always want to be the force that's like, what do you want? And like, what's going to make you feel better? And what kind of life do you want to live? And how do you want to be in your body? And can we like get that relationship more solid? So it's like, so that if you come face to face with a cookie, you'll be like, what do I want to do with you, cookie? Yeah. And if the answer is eat it, then like, cool.
Like you said, then it's just conscious. It's not just your animal lizard brain being like, food, put it in your mouth hole.
Yeah, and there's certain instances, like anytime I'm ever at like a party or buffet, like I know, like my animal brain, like yesterday I was with all my friends. Like I feel super safe there and I can't stop eating. So like I always bring like, if I have the opportunity to bring stuff, I'm like, guys, I'm bringing veggies and dip so that I can just house veggies the whole time, you know? So it's like, so I'm not housing something else, but I know that my lizard brain turns on in those scenarios and I'm like, whatever, must feel safe. Stuff. And I'm just like hoping that I'm stuffing myself with like radishes instead of 8 pounds of chips.
Yeah. Well, and I love food as a metaphor for like just anything. Like food, because we all have to eat and it's something that we do without thinking. I think it's a really good metaphor for anything, whether it's like relationships, sex, your job. Like we've been talking so much about like teaching yourself to like, or I guess training yourself to enjoy what is delicious and wholesome and like really be conscious about that stuff. Like I think that people don't do that in relationships.
Yeah.
Right? Like people can look at someone who's like been married to the same person for 30 years and it's like, fuck, you have been eating the same sweet potato, broccoli, and hamburger for 30 years? Are you out of your mind? And then that same person can look at the other person and be like, hell no, sometimes I throw some turmeric in there. Like, sometimes whatever. Like, you can spice up anything. And it's so funny that, like, to me, I think a lot of people don't make that same leap of, like, eating healthy and, like, or people who take eating so serious, right? They're like, oh no, I eat exactly this and I try my darndest to like not eat a ton of processed sugar and all this other stuff. Will like not take the same diligence in a relationship or like in their relationships, and they're just like eating whatever comes their way, right? And I think that it's so funny that I'm the opposite. I'm very aware of like relationships. I'm never aware of what I'm eating. Like I think that food is such a great metaphor for like anything. Whether and just like trying new food and like, all right, I'm trying to eat healthy. What can I do to spice this up instead of just like immediately giving up and trying junk food? You can be like, all right, I'm gonna try this recipe or this, and still eat healthy. Or like, oh, I'm committed to one person forever. Like that doesn't mean things have to be boring, or like I have to eat the exact same meal. Like let's try salmon, or like you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've talked about everything. Like we've literally covered everything from getting peed on by a squirrel.
Yeah, that did extend our breadth of our conversation.
Like, this is amazing. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about? Is there anything that is just burning?
Oh, not right now.
All right.
I can come up with something, but
no, I'm just genuinely curious.
That's good. You don't have anything burning. Okay. I'm glad.
Yeah. So, I guess that being said, I feel like we've been at it about like this is a good place to call it. We always end on the same spot. Or I guess how rude. Dylan, is there any burning shares or questions or comments or concerns, thoughts?
No. Like Evan was saying, we like to end with the question: when you think of the word joy, what comes to mind?
And it's not like you don't have to impress anyone. Like, this is just for you. This is for you to remind you what joy is. It just doesn't have to be a good piece of story or anything. It could be nothing.
I mean, this is just what came to my mind, which is like been trying to, and this is like lately what has maybe been giving me joy. I can be really heady and really spinny. And so trying to stop and pause in moments and like pay attention. And like two things that have caused me a lot of joy lately, which I always love, is like, I'm trying to find a way not to make this feel cheesy, but breeze, like the breeze has been, it's like, I feel really held. Like I've really struggled with like a lot of loneliness lately. And so there's something about like I don't know, there's something like just delightful about a breeze. And I can't not smile whenever I feel a breeze like pick me up. And then the other is like my adorable dog, and I go run with him. Like I go throw the ball with him every morning, and just seeing that adorable little dog just like run towards me with so much glee, and he just like has this little ball in his mouth, and he like is breathing through his mouth, and his like hair is just, his ears are flowing, like, and he's just so happy. And I like have to remind myself every morning, no matter what, to like pause and just like, and actually that's not true. He always like spontaneously makes me laugh. Like I'll be doing something and I'll just crack up. And I love those moments, and I try and be better about pausing and being like, oh, this is so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Big
Perfect.
shout out to Huckleberry.
Oh my God, he's the greatest.
He laid in wet paint today.
Oh my God.
I was painting trim, and he just has a knack for getting
Everywhere.
wherever I am. Like if I'm remotely busy, he will just get in the way somehow. So I like just painted
Which
this
is
trim
remarkable
board.
because he's 25 pounds.
And then I just hear Maddy like, oh no, Huckleberry. And he's just like fully laid into a wall of wet paint. It's pretty great.
I guess just to give some context to any of this, we met Maddy because Gavin and our neighbor Seth are redoing her kitchen.
Yes.
So
It's almost past tense.
yeah, we
Almost
almost redid it.
past
We're
tense, yeah.
like so close to being able to do that.
And they have
Speaking
been
of tenses,
delightful. Yes.
I like to conjugate the word trabajar into trabahabamos. That's my splunking. That's my splunking.
We are working.
Yeah, I don't care for the working part of it. It's just say trabahabamos and not smile.
I don't think you can.